I've been trying to piece together what happened, I went on, and there are a few gaps that I need to fill in. I had refused to give up with the gentle interrogation, however much he evaded answering, and I doubted he would be accepting another dinner invitation from me for a long time. I pulled the pictures out again as the cabin crew went through their familiar rituals and the plane roared into life and lifted off from the runway. Despite the few things that Dennis had reluctantly divulged, I was still having trouble getting a clear picture, which was why I had decided I had to make the trip back into the past for myself. I had to actually go to the streets where it had all started to see if they would jog my own memory, unlocking some of the doors in my head. I had received the call from Patrick Dowling in Dublin 2 days before and had booked the flight immediately. He had been meticulously careful not to raise my hopes by making any promises, but I had grabbed at the straws he was holding out with all the desperation of a drowning man. He worked in some sort of public relations capacity for the children's courts, and as a younger man he had also been a social worker in Dublin, so might know more about the sort of place that I had been kept for those early years. I felt sure the court must have records from the time when I was born. Patrick was the best lead I had at the moment. "If you were to come in to see me next time you're in Dublin," he had said, "we could see what we can find out." I'm sure he was just being polite, hoping to put me off from what seemed to him like a lost cause. He certainly didn't expect me to ring back a few hours later and tell him that I had booked my flight and would be with him in 3 days' time. "I can't promise anything," he'd said quickly, probably horrified to think he might not be able to help me after I had travelled all the way from New York to see him. "I understand," I assured him. "I'm just grateful that you're willing to help." I did understand how slim the chances of success were, and how little information I was going to be able to give him to go on, but that didn't stop me from being ridiculously optimistic and nervous. I was aware that the Dublin taxi driver was watching me in his mirror, and I tried to avoid his eyes, not wanting to be drawn into the conversation that he was obviously keen to have. "Can I ask," he said eventually, ignoring all the signals I must have been giving off, "do I hear an Irish or an American accent?" "Probably a mixture," I replied, giving up all hope of being able to remain alone with my thoughts for the duration of the ride from the airport into the city centre. "I've been living in New York for a long time, but I was born in Ireland." "I thought as much," he crowed, obviously pleased with his own powers of perception. "You dress like a Yank in your smart suit, and you have that American twang about your voice. But then I thought you must be Irish with those deep blue eyes and your looks." Believing that the ice had been broken between us, he continued to chatter, and I was able to drift in and out of the conversation as he pointed out local landmarks and buildings that he felt had probably arrived since I was last in the city. I could see there had been a lot of changes, but the essence of the city remained the same, with street after street of red brick houses, every corner seeming to boast a pub. What surprised me was how small everything seemed after New York. The buildings had seemed so huge when I was a child, the roads so wide. "Is this your first time at the famous Shelburne Hotel?" he inquired. "Yes," I nodded and smiled at him in the mirror. It wasn't completely true. I had been there before, more than 50 years ago. Although I had only been visiting for tea, it was an event that was etched deeply on my memory. It was the day when I first met Bill and realised that everything in my life was about to change and that nothing about my past was quite as I had believed it to be. I had never experienced anything like that tea before and wouldn't again for many years. It had been like arriving unexpectedly on a different planet. "Hello and welcome to the Shelburne Hotel," the young receptionist beamed. "May I have your name, please, sir?" "Gordon Lewis," I replied, handing over a credit card. She scanned her screen with well-practiced speed. "Ah, yes, Mr. Lewis, we have a nice suite for you, overlooking the park." I didn't need a suite, but because I had booked at such short notice, it had been all they could offer me. She signalled a bellboy to take my case up. "How long do you plan to stay with us, Mr. Lewis?" she continued as she typed. "It's a little open-ended," I confessed. "I'll know better in a few days." "That's fine, Mr. Lewis," she said. "Enjoy your stay with us." I walked to the lift with the bellboy, looking forward to being alone behind a closed door with my thoughts.